Well, the holiday season is right around the corner, and you might be wondering, or maybe you're not wondering, but you should be wondering about this, how the new iOS updates are going to affect your tracking for holiday sales and advertising. Today, I have a very special guest on the show today. Her name is Maisha Walker. She is a coach in our Momentum program and the founder of Message Medium. And she dives all into everything that you need to know about the iOS updates and how it's going to affect your advertising and other types of tracking for your e-commerce and jewelry company. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Flourish and Thrive Academy and the host of the Thrive by Design podcast. And I help jewelry and creative product brands and other handmade businesses scale their sales using my methodology called the desired brand effect. So if you're ready to do big things this holiday season and really crush your holiday sales, then listen in to this epic episode with Maisha. It is so good. All right, I am so excited to have my good friend Maisha Walker on the show today. She is going to be talking about how to navigate iOS updates for the holiday season. Maisha, welcome.
Hello, it's great to be here.
I am so excited to have you on the show. I've been hunting you down, girl, for a long time. Just kidding.
I know. It's the crazy season. It's the beginning of the holiday season. So things are so busy for all of us.
I know it definitely is. And I'm just excited to talk about this because we're going to talk about how the iOS updates might affect your holiday sales season. This is an important thing to note and to know about. So Maisha's going to be talking about it. But before we dive in, I want to give a little background on Maisha about how we know each other, because I think this is a fun story. I met you at a business networking event for the I'm going to mess up the acronym now. The women.
Oh, the NABO. Was it the NABO
yeah.
event you're thinking of?
Yes, the NABO event. Is that where I first met you?
No, actually.
Carrie.
We met through Carrie, through Marina. So we met at that dinner, which was also kind of a networking dinner. This is also a great story. It was basically a group of women, like power women, that were just all friends, connected somehow. And we realized, oh my gosh, this has been so great talking to women who are like senior roles in their companies or running these great businesses. We have to do this again. So we kept getting together. And then eventually I invited you to speak because I was president of the local NABO chapter. And I invited you to come and speak at our event. And of course you kicked butt. You were fabulous.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's how we connected.
I also went to one at Bank of America with you one time. Or I met you.
Yes,
there.
That's right.
Another one.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, we go way back. And Maisha and I have known each other, I don't know, for 6 or 7 years now. And I invited her to actually be a coach in our Momentum program too. And she coaches on marketing and ads and other things about digital marketing to help you grow your e-commerce business. And so I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today. I've been talking about getting you on this show probably for 2 or 3 years now, and we finally are making it happen. So I'm really glad to have you here.
That's right.
So before we dive in, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and experience in the digital marketing space?
Wow. So I have actually been in digital marketing for 25 years now, a really long time. And if you think back at how far back that goes, it actually means I predate Google in this space by 2 years. And I predate Facebook by 8 years in this space. So the way to think about it is essentially I've been doing digital, and I started my business only 2 years after entering the digital space. So I've had my agency for 23 years, basically. And we've essentially been using each of these digital channels like Google ads and search optimization and Facebook ads. Like when they were invented, we, held back for a little while because we work with small businesses. So you don't always want to be doing the brand new thing because the early adopters often end up wasting a lot of money trying to figure out how to make it work. Right. And you don't want to do that with small businesses. So we end up hanging back just a little bit and watching and starting to play with it and then diving in. But we've been using each of these tools basically since they were invented. So that's, a little bit of my long background in digital.
And the name of your company is Message Medium.
That's right. Message Medium.
I think we should probably mention that.
I should say that. Yeah.
So what's working now for brands who are trying to expand their audience online and offline? And what's the best way that you think to expand your audience right now? Because it's important to actually get a bigger audience and customer base before the holiday season starts. So if you have any specific angles on that, I'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. So I think the key thing to remember, and this has been really, I think this is going to dovetail nicely with some of the things that you've been talking about recently. I watch all your marketing, Tracy. I love it. So I know that what I'm about to say is totally in keeping with what you've been telling your readers also and your podcast listeners. But now, it's mid-September. The holidays are almost upon us already. And so you really want to be planning these things out early. We started talking to our clients about holiday sales in June, if you can believe it.
Yes.
So, and that was just to kind of warm them up, get them thinking so they can start doing planning. By the end of July, we had our entire promotions calendar for our holiday campaigns for our clients. Now, there were still some details that needed to be created, copy that needed to be written for landing pages, ads obviously are being created now, but we knew what the plan was back in July, so that we could actually work in August and September and October on just executing. And of course, the great thing about all these digital channels is that most things can be scheduled. So we're working now on building everything and scheduling it in advance, so that our clients can just sit back and watch all their marketing unfold and focus on delivering great service to their customers and their clients during the holiday season and not be scrambling about their marketing. So number one is that we are a little bit late in the game to start building an audience for the holiday season, but there are still ways you can do that. So advertising, one of the great things about it is it's instant, right? So even if you don't have a super fancy, well thought out holiday campaign, you can still do things that can give you visibility and get visibility on whatever it is you are already doing. So creating things like page likes ads that can encourage more people to see your page and like your page. You have to make those super targeted so that you don't end up with a bunch of spammers and people who will never buy from you liking your page. But page likes ads are a great thing to look at now. We also do things, Instagram follower campaigns, where we're using the same really targeted audiences to get new followers on Instagram. So there are ways you can get in front of people now to at least give visibility to the content you're already publishing to make sure more people see it and try to get them into your communications family. Ditto with using things like leads ads to try to build email subscribers. Yeah. So if you've got holiday emails going out, it's always nice to have some new subscribers who are going to start getting those holiday emails. So again, I wouldn't focus at this point on trying to create a whole lot of new holiday content because it's a little late to start that process. But whatever it is that you're already planning to do, just get some more eyeballs on it, right? Use ads to get more eyeballs on what you're doing.
So for the leads ads, what's the best strategy for a product-based business? Would it be to offer them a lead magnet, or how do you guys build email lists using ads?
So definitely using lead magnets. I think for product-based businesses, it just gets a little bit more challenging figuring out what that lead magnet should be, right? Yeah. For a service-based business, a lot of times it's content-focused, but we've seen people do things like care guides or shopping guides, or, if you're looking for a great holiday gift, stay tuned to our emails because we're going to do a whole campaign that outlines great things that you might like to buy depending on the personality and the style of the people you're buying for. So that's a way that you can entice people into ongoing content that can help them make holiday buying decisions. One of the things we noticed last year, and we're seeing a lot of chatter and talk about this and whether or not it'll be the same this year, is people last year bought early. They bought really early. So they didn't wait. Most of the sales that we saw were not in the late in December. They were in November. So just keeping in mind that I think a lot of people are starting to thinking about what kind of holiday gifts they're going to buy because they want to get their holiday shopping done early, and they're doing so much of it online. And so it's easy to do it early. So again, just thinking about what can you do now in the next few weeks to start getting people thinking about giving your products as gifts for the holidays, and possibly leveraging that to generate leads and get people signed into your email list. And then there's always things like giveaways and special gifts and prizes and things like that that you can use to entice people, that people who join your email list will get a special gift with every purchase over $50 or something like that. So we've seen that work as well. And then we've also seen people doing a lot of exclusive selling opportunities. So if you have a new products that are launching around the holidays, or special collections or things like that, you can give the people on your list early shopping opportunities, or you can do special gift wrapping for the people on your list. So lots of ways to make it valuable for people to give you an email address and actively stay and actually read your emails and be on their radar.
I have a question for you. Like, what are your favorite, obviously I have a lot of questions, it's a podcast, but what are your favorite advertising channels right now for product businesses?
So I am still in love with Instagram and Facebook. I know that there's been a lot of changes over the last six months or so with these channels, and even things like reporting and access to data is getting, it has been crazy, although I think it's improving now. But these channels still absolutely work. One of the things we've been doing is not relying quite as heavily on the data that we see in Facebook and Instagram, still looking at it, but not as relying as heavily, but also looking at trends at the source. So when you go directly to your website analytics, what are you seeing there? You should still see sales either staying steady or going up according to what you're doing with your ads campaigns. So it's a little bit, one step removed, but you can definitely still see how things are playing out by going directly to the source and looking at the data in your ads campaigns. We're also looking in Google Analytics and looking at attribution data in there. And I'm going to apologize now if this gets a little techie, but looking at attribution data inside Google Analytics, there's a whole new section for it that launched last year. Perfect timing for what's happening right now with Facebook and Instagram and the privacy changes. But yes, we're still in love with those channels. They still represent the biggest source of new customers, with over 2.5 billion people on Facebook and over 1.5 billion people on Instagram. They're still where the money is, right? So everybody is still there, and they're rolling out additional features that also let you do things like, instead of just having your products show up on Facebook and Instagram are now launching these tools that let people complete the entire purchase process on these platforms. And we're actually talking to a lot of our clients about really taking advantage of that. I know that they're going to, they're taking a piece of that money when they process the payment and the transaction, but they're also giving you great access to data when they do that. So some of the data that people lost because of the changes with Apple devices, they're now going to be able to get that data back with processing payments on Facebook and Instagram. So we're still in love with those channels. We're definitely looking more at Pinterest as places to advertise, and then exploring a little bit tools like TikTok. I think the challenge with tools like TikTok, though, is if you're selling to a customer that's more mature, that's in their 30s and 40s, TikTok is just not yet. There's still, though some of us are on there, but we're not using it nearly to the same extent as we are Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook and Instagram are still golden for me in terms of ads.
We're getting on TikTok. I launched an account last year. We have to reinvigorate the account and close it down, reopen it and stuff like that. But I've heard that,
and it's great for content production.
Yeah. People are saying too, that TikTok does have some older people on it, because I think it's now the parents are on for the kids, stalking their kids or whatever it is, or the grandparents, or, there's so many different ways to use it, which I think is great. And I was going to ask,
Yes.
kind of segues nicely to my next two questions. A quick question. Like, what do you think? So Reels is one of the fastest ways, I think, right now on Instagram to grow an Instagram audience. What do you think about Reels ads?
So I will tell you, this is a place that we are just starting to experiment. We have a couple of clients we're working with now. Part of the challenge with Reels ads is I think that there is a difference between a content creator, I shouldn't say a difference, but often a different approach and a different level of comfort with creating things like Reels. If you're a content creator, if that's what you focus on doing, versus a retailer. A retailer is just focusing on other things. And so part of the challenge with Reels is getting people seeing if people really have the time and the energy and the resources to create them and being creative about how they're creating them. And as a retailer, you're just not going to have the same mindset in terms of what are all the things that we've been doing that we might be able to change our approach and just do them as a reel. So we're talking to some of our clients about that now, especially if you're doing things like photo shoots and looking at ways that you can convert your photo shoots into things you can do with Reels that make the Reels really fun. Now, keep in mind, there are also a lot of retailers that are not even quite, doing professional photo shoots yet. So I think that, whether or not you're using Reels has a lot to do with your personality type. And are you someone who loves creating that kind of video content anyway? And if you are, I absolutely suggest that you dive into Reels and experiment and explore all the things you can do with them. If you're not that person, and I will volunteer and say, I am not that person. I am a hardcore introvert, which people always find surprising, but I am not so much a video creator. But even for introverts, there are ways that you can explore this. If you're doing product photography yourself, I would encourage you, this is the time to step up your game. If you're really going to stay with doing your own product photography, you really got to dive in and learn how to do it properly and learn how to explore doing product videos in addition to your still images. If you're working with a professional photographer, see if they can, get into doing some little 2-3 second videos of your products that are just fun and interesting. One of the places you can go to explore what people are doing is the Facebook ad library. I don't know how many people know that exists, but you can go there and you can see what all these different people are doing with their Reels ads and with their video ads. So go and look and find some inspiration in the Facebook ad library. You can just go to Google, type in Facebook ad library, and you will get a link right in the Google results.
I actually, when I see an ad from a brand that I like, I go to their Facebook page and look at their page transparency and try to look at their ads and see how can I reimburse for my audience? It's such a great tip.
I do that too.
So you mentioned a few times all the changes and the privacy. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the iOS updates on the iPhone and how that might affect shopping and retail this year. So what do we need to know about that?
So the issue here, the core issue with these iOS privacy changes is that, and I'm going to apologize in advance because this has to be a little technical in my explanation, but when you are on a phone and you open up Facebook, you are basically you're in an app on Facebook on your phone. And when somebody sees your ad in their Facebook app and they click on your ad and come to your website, in the past, you were able to track that journey. You could track from when somebody clicked on your ad in Facebook, came to your website, and then you would actually be able to track what they did. Did they make a purchase? Did they add to cart but not check out? Did they sign up for your email list? Did they look at a bunch of products, and which products did they look at? The problem with the privacy update is basically Apple is now saying, we don't want apps tracking anything that happens outside their app. So as soon as somebody clicks on a link in Facebook in the phone and leaves Facebook, that is no longer trackable on iOS devices. This is the core issue. So you can still track anything that's happening inside Facebook. You just can't track anything that happens between Facebook and another app. So the problem is that you don't get as much insight into the revenue that your ads are generating for you because you can't see when somebody comes to your site from an ad and makes a purchase. The other problem is we would use all of that tracking to build better audiences.
Yeah.
You know, I say this all the time that ads on Facebook and Instagram, yes, the content and the creative are really important, but what's even more important is your audiences, that you're showing the ads to the right people. So we would use all of that tracking to help us create better optimized, better defined, more profitable audiences. And now we're losing a piece of that. We're not losing all of it, but we're losing a piece of that tracking because we can't say anyone on an Apple device who came to your website and made a purchase, if they're on a recent Apple device, we can't see that anymore. We can't track them in the future anymore. So this is the problem. This is why people are very nervous, not getting as much data about sales. The sales are still happening. They just can't see them. And we're not getting to keep track of the people coming to our websites and making purchases so we can build audiences based on an understanding of who those people are and who else might be like them, who might be interested in buying from us. So these are the two core problems. I will give you one tidbit because I know that we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to mention that one of the primary things we're doing to combat this or get around this is number one, like I was saying earlier, we're looking at Google Analytics data so we can try to get a better sense of where people are coming from, since we can't track directly inside Ads Manager as well as we used to be able to. So looking at Google Analytics and making sure you've got all the tracking set up for that. We're also looking directly at the source, as I was saying. So going directly into Shopify, for example, and watching the trends, not only in your sales numbers, but in where your sales are coming from. So for example, are you seeing sales from new parts of the world or new parts of the country that you didn't see before because you're showing the people ads? Are you seeing more sales showing up with Facebook as the source, or with new sources that weren't there before, like direct, increase in direct sales or an increase in sales from Google, but you're not doing anything on Google? That probably means those are all coming from your ads. So just being aware that the data that you're getting is going to be less transparent. It's going to look like it's coming from somewhere else, but it's actually coming from your ads. And then the last thing is, well, two more things. We are also looking at those in-app purchase possibilities. So instead of people leaving Facebook to go buy something on your store, so if you've got a Facebook store and people click on a product and then they go to your website to purchase, that's still fabulous. But we're looking at exploring being able to purchase directly on Facebook, because again, as long as that transaction happens on Facebook, Facebook can still track it. So you can still get all that data if it's happening on Facebook or on Instagram. And then the last thing is, you know, we never want to put all of our eggs in one basket, Tracy, right? So we're encouraging people to look at other platforms, look at Pinterest, start slowly exploring things like Google Ads, look at whether or not there are things you can do with local search. It's never safe to put all your eggs in one basket and be focusing exclusively on one channel. I think it's a good thing to do as you ramp up. But if you're at a place where your ads are doing really well, obviously you want to make sure that you're continuing to grow them, but really start looking at other channels and how you can build those channels to the same place where you are with your Facebook and Instagram ads.
Okay, that is such great advice. I feel like there's a lot of questions that I have inside of that. So do UTM codes and tracking links work inside Facebook ads, or does it cause a problem for advertising? Is that something like any sort of?
No, they definitely work, and we use them. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is one of the ways that we're getting Google Analytics data and trying to get that data to be as accurate as possible in terms of where things are coming from. So here's the reason why it works. So it's not dependent on Facebook tracking to understand when somebody clicks on a link that's tracked with UTM code that works in Google Analytics. Because what happens is that UTM tracked link goes into your ad as the destination. So when somebody clicks on your ad and they arrive at your website, they're not just arriving at the product page, they're arriving at the product page with the code added at the end of the link. Yeah. So that's why it works. Sometimes the data is just a little bit muddy. You know, it doesn't always, so Google Analytics isn't perfect. It doesn't always track everything exactly the way it should. Also, Google Analytics has traditionally been, so this, again, we're going to get a little techie here, but it's traditionally been something called last click attribution, which means that, and most tracking software works this way. So when somebody clicks on something and comes to your website, if they leave and they come back a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever they click to come back at that final purchase point, that's what gets attributed to sale. So if somebody sees your Facebook ad and they click on it and they land on your website, and then a month later, or like me, it could be a year later, they come back to your website and make a purchase, wherever I went, I might have gone and searched for you on Google because I remembered your ad. Google is going to get the credit for that sale, not your Facebook ad, which is actually how I found you. So now there's a new tool inside Google Analytics called attribution. And it's still a little bit wonky, and I think they're still working out some of the kinks, but they're trying to give you more insight into something called first click attribution instead of last click attribution. So you can try to get a sense of how people find you, not just the last place they went before they made a purchase.
How would you customize your Google Analytics to get the kind of data that you need to track some of these things?
Yeah, so there are a few things. Number one is, yes, use UTM links in your marketing. And I think actually you guys have a whole session I did about UTM code and Google Analytics. So anybody who wants to do that can go find that session.
That's in our Momentum program. So it's not available to everyone.
In your program. Exactly. So if you're in the program, you get that session for free where I go into detail. Maybe too much detail, but I go into detail about how you can use that. I also teach classes on Google Analytics, and as a part of your program, I coach people on Google Analytics. So that's one thing you can use to get into the detail on how to do that. So the other thing is definitely I would recommend setting up this attribution tool, this new tool inside Google Analytics that lets you see all the places that Google at least recognizes, all the places that somebody clicked before they made a purchase with you. So you can see that entire customer journey instead of just seeing the last click, which is just not enough data. And then there are other things, it depends on the structure of your website, depending on how you want to be able to track, like, are there certain groups of products or certain collections that are getting the best sales? So you can set up your site in ways that allow you to see that data. And then the last thing is, depending on how your site is built, just making absolutely sure you have e-commerce conversion tracking turned on, turning it on inside Google Analytics, turning it on inside your website. If you're on Shopify, they make it incredibly easy. It's literally a toggle. You go in there and it takes you 5 seconds to turn that on. And then you can see all your revenue data inside Google Analytics, and that'll help you see, obviously you can see revenue in Shopify, but what you want to be able to see is detailed information about the source of that revenue and about the audience that's generating that revenue. And that's what you can see in Google Analytics if you have e-commerce conversion tracking turned on.
I love that. This is such great information. So I feel a little bit like there's a lot to work with here. I have one more question before we kind of wrap up. And my question to you, Maisha, is this, what's the deal with retargeting ads now? Like, do they still work when someone lands on your website, or is that not a thing anymore?
It's definitely still a thing. Please don't say that. It's definitely still a thing. But you are right. I mean, I'm joking. You can say that because it's true to an extent. So, the only place, and obviously time will tell whether other places start to do something similar, the only time retargeting definitely still works. The challenge is, are you getting everyone into your retargeting audiences now that these privacy changes have rolled out? So as long as you can get them into that audience, it absolutely still works. So the group now that isn't in that audience is the people specifically coming from updated iOS devices. Everybody else is still going into your retargeting campaigns. So again, this is why one of the reasons why we're recommending that people explore things like those Facebook stores where the transactions actually get processed on Facebook or on Instagram, because then those people can still make it into your retargeting campaigns. So the people that you were losing by sending them to your website, you can gain that data back by sending them, by having them complete the transaction on Facebook or Instagram, and then building audiences around those people. So yes, it's not so much about whether or not retargeting works. It's more about whether or not you can still get as many people into your retargeting audience. And that is still, a work in progress. So one of the other things we're encouraging more people to do is events. because again, those are transactions that happen like live trunk shows. Those transactions happen when someone RSVPs, they RSVP on Facebook. And so they can go into a remarketing audience. So there are things like that that we're exploring to help people continue to build those remarketing audiences. And if you have those audiences built, so we have a number of clients that luckily we've been working with them for a couple of years or several years. And now it's okay. It's not so much of a challenge that these things are harder to do because we've built great audiences with them already. Facebook has so much data about who buys from them that it does a great job of figuring out who to show their ads to. This is much more of a challenge, I think, for people who are just starting with ads and trying to build those audiences from scratch. That's where it becomes harder. And honestly, it just means you're going to have, it takes a little longer. You might have to spend a little bit more money and a little bit more time, elapsed time, to get those audiences to a place where they're really solid and you can leverage them as well as possible.
I love this. This is such a great episode. I feel like I need to have you back on to talk about retargeting strategies now.
I'm always happy to come back on your show, Tracy.
So Maisha, tell everyone where they can find you.
Well, the easiest way to reach me, first, if you want to get on my email list, you can send me an email at maisha@messagemedium.com. If you want to join my email list, send me that email and put sign me up in the subject line. And that'll make sure you'll get routed to the right places. I'm a techie, so I have a lot of automation in place. So you'll get routed to the right places and get on my email list. And just to make sure that we have the spelling, it's Maisha, Maisha. And I have a way that I say my domain name. So it's message, like a voicemail message, and then medium, like small, medium, and large. So .com. So Maisha@messagemedium.com is how you can find me.
Awesome. Maisha, thank you so much for being here today. This was so awesome.
You're so welcome.
Wasn't Maisha awesome? I just love chatting with her. I feel like my head is spinning with all of that amazing information about what to do with your advertising. So if you would like a little bit more hand holding this holiday season, well, here's your official invite. We can help you out in one of our programs. We have many to choose from over here at Flourish and Thrive. But first, we need to kind of know what's going on in your business. So the first step to doing that is to apply for a free strategy audit. You can head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/strategy and check out what this audit is all about. In a nutshell, basically, we're going to take a look at your goals for the holiday season and your goals well beyond holiday. We want to really cast a big picture vision of where you're going in business. Then we're going to take a look at your current strategy, what's going on in your marketing and your business, and identify any challenges or roadblocks that might be standing in your way of reaching your goals. And from there, we're going to help you dial in some actionable steps that you can implement after the call. And if it seems like a good fit, we'll invite you to join one of our programs and share with you the next steps of how we can support you and give you a little bit more hand-holding in your business. So if that sounds good, head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/strategy and check out what the strategy audit is all about. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. If you liked something or you had a key takeaway from the episode today, please make sure that you comment and share with that below. This is Tracy Matthews signing off. Until next time.